his campaign to Russia. The Washington Post first reported Democrats' connection to the research, which leaked in January. The FBI says it has confirmed some of the claims in the document, which are now under investigation by special counsel Robert Mueller and his team. Here's Jeff Pegues.
The 35-page dossier details some of the most explosive allegations now under investigation by special counsel Robert Mueller. President Trump continued to dismiss the document today.
It was made up, and I understand they paid a tremendous amount of money, and Hillary Clinton always denied it. The Democrats always denied it.
The law firm that represented both the Democratic National Committee and the Hillary for America campaign has confirmed that it paid Fusion GPS in April of 2016 to perform a variety of research services. Until now, some top Clinton campaign officials have denied knowing who was behind the effort to dig up dirt. Former campaign spokesman Brian Fallon.
I'm sure that there is a small group of folks that were aware of the nature of the decision to hire Fusion back in the spring of 2016, but it was kept for reasons that I can understand to a very select group, given the sensitive nature of who they hired.
Fusion GPS hired Christopher Steele, a former British spy who compiled a dossier containing unsubstantiated information, including President Trump's alleged connections to the Kremlin. Alex Conant, who is now a CBS News consultant, worked for Senator Marco Rubio's presidential campaign.
Every competent campaign does opposition research on their opponents because you want to know your opponent's vulnerabilities. I think hiring foreign spies is a rather aggressive tactic, which is not normal, but it is normal to do opposition research.
The FBI was also prepared to enter into a financial agreement with Christopher Steele to continue his work, but some Republicans started the opposition research effort during the 2016 primary. Elaine?
Well, Jeff, how long were the Democrats associated with Fusion GPS?
Well, from what we heard today, it sounds like they were associated with Fusion GPS between April of 2016 and the weeks before the November election. So it looks like that relationship, if you will, ended in about October of 2016. So it was a matter of months. But during that time, Christopher Steele was able to compile this dossier that at some point during that period he felt was important enough that he reached out to Senator John McCain and the FBI.
And Jeff, what took so long for the Democrats to acknowledge helping to pay for the research that went into the dossier?
Well, that's a good question, and there are members of Congress who are asking those questions today as well. We know that Debbie Wasserman Schultz, the former chair of the DNC, was asked about that today, whether she responded that she was not aware. So these are questions that some members of Congress have as well. How much or when did many of these top Democratic officials know about this, and why didn't they come forward sooner and acknowledge it?
And Jeff, what can you tell us about the FBI's desire to use Christopher Steele as an asset?
Well, as we've been reporting, it was the Republicans who initially started this effort to gather this research, this information on Donald Trump and his business contacts, and then once the primary was over, it moved over to the Democrats who helped pay for that research. But eventually, the FBI was interested in Christopher Steele continuing his work. So they obviously viewed him as a credible enough source to explore the potential of entering an agreement with him so that he would continue his work looking into these alleged ties between the Trump campaign and Kremlin officials.
And speaking of the FBI, the Washington Post reports that they've confirmed parts of the dossier. Can you tell us more about that?
Well, yeah, and this is something, Elaine, that we've been talking about for several months now. Earlier this year, we reported that there were aspects of this dossier that were gaining credibility rather than losing credibility. And that's an important distinction there because when we initially heard about this dossier, there were a lot of people who dismissed it. But over time, it seems to have gained credibility with investigators. In fact, we've heard from our sources that there are parts of this dossier that investigators are using as sort of a roadmap as they try to unravel some of these alleged connections between the Trump campaign and Russian operatives or Kremlin officials. And so this is a document that, while some of it may remain uncorroborated, there are aspects of it that investigators are finding to be quite credible.
A lot of open questions right now. Jeff Pegues. Jeff, thank you so much.
My pleasure.